Hey everybody, Cannibal here. Welcome to my Lord's Mobile video on how to quickly read scout reports. So you're roaming around your kingdom and you're looking for targets, and one you come across doesn't have anti-scout on. Your heart starts beating a little faster and you start thinking, hey, I got a target. Well, what's the first thing that you want to do? Well, you need to understand the pluses and the minuses of tearing down the wall and looking at the front line. So obviously, if you're confident that they are offline and you want to get the biggest punch, you're going to want to tear down their wall, and you're going to want to look at what they've got in their front line. But we're not always confident, are we? We know that sometimes they're just out there baiting, and they're really just trying to trap, or they might come on quickly. Maybe they forgot to turn on anti-scout, but somebody's going to ring them pretty quickly, and they're going to get back online. So the good thing is that if you do break the wall and look at the front line, you're going to know what troop type's in front. You're going to be able to maximize the punch, and the wall's going to be down. And we know that if it's a tough target, that having the wall broken is going to increase your chances of at least getting a walk back, because you're not going to have extra time spent uh, sitting in front of that wall with their siege and their ranged hitting your siege and your army. So it's really best to break that wall if it's a tough target. But the bad thing is that if you break their wall and you get their front line, they know that you know that you've got their front line. And it's not cheap if you're gonna, especially if you're breaking a maximum strength wall. You're gonna have to heal some siege troops and some grunts and things like that. So it's not like it's free. And the target can change their lineup at any time. It's super easy just to change what's going to be up front. And then the biggest thing I think is that you've lost the element of surprise. So uh, if you go ahead and break their wall and you get that front line, they pretty much know what you're gonna send, and within a reasonable set of circumstances. Okay, so let's start with what a scout report looks like and some things you should consider on the scout report. So the first thing is the RSS. Obviously, hey, sometimes you hit a bank and you get a scout report back, and you look at that top line, you go, whoa, look how much resources that thing has. I need some resources. I'm going to loot this thing. So that can be a huge motivator going ahead with a rally against a target. Then you got the heroes, and what the heroes are put on their wall will tell you a little bit about what they're expecting in terms of a rally, or how far along they are in their development of their account. Also, what familiars they've got on the wall. Same thing. How far along are they in their development? Uh, do they have 2, 3, 4, 5 familiars? What kind of familiars do they have on their wall? That tells you a lot about that castle. And then the wall strength itself. Like I say, if it's a really strong wall, you might want to break it down anyway, because it's just going to increase your punch when you do, and you're going to improve your chances of a walk back on a tough target. And then the comp itself, and we'll get into all of that a little bit more. And then is anybody reinforcing them? And you're going to want to look at all of these things when you look at a report quickly. So what can you get from what's on the wall? Well, as I mentioned, you're gonna be able to look at that and say, oh, how developed is this account, uh, and are they making good decisions about what heroes to put on their wall? Sometimes you see, um, 4 uh, gold heroes, and then you'll see some green hero or something like that on the wall, and you're scratching your head and going, well, why did they put that green hero? And you'll see, well, it's a pay for play hero, and they just kind of like the look of it, and so they put it on their wall, it's not giving them many stats at all, but they kind of wanted it on their wall as a just to show their friends, I guess. So that's a kind of mistake that you can see there. You also see people putting things like Trickster or something on their wall, and heroes with no attack stats showing up on the wall. Those are big mistakes that a lot of newer players might make. But also beyond that, you can kind of get a feel for what they're trying to accomplish with the heroes on their wall, what kind of defense they want to put up. And if we look at this particular case here, you'll see that there are four ranged heroes and one inf hero on that wall. Do you think they might be wanting to defend in range? Well, probably a good chance of that. One of the things that I look for in a report, I seek out pairs of I call them strength pairs. Are there things in the report that kind of lead me to believe that they've created a little more strength in a couple of troop types? If you're a pretty decent rally leader with some a decent amount of strength, uh, you're going to be able to use these to your advantage because you'll take what their strongest troop types are and compositions are, and you'll just go at them with something that will win and tie against those. So if I look at something like this, I see that they've got their gladiators and their sharpshooters, so their inf and their ranged are the highest troop types by a fair amount on here. So if I want to go at this, I would be inclined to go at this with an inf rally, knowing that I will at least tie against their inf, and I will win against their range. So the only situation where they might hurt me is if they put the cavalry up front, but I'm playing the odds a bit here. And if you're a reasonably strong rally lead, you might look at that and say, well, a million uh, of the cav isn't going to hurt me so much that I won't still be able to walk back from that, even if I'm wrong. So that's kind of how I would look at that report. By the way, that's true of dark nests as well. It's quite easy to look at a dark nest and see the troop types that stand out, and if there's a pair of them that stand out above the others, going after the one where you get a tie and a win is almost always the best way to defeat a dark nest. Okay, so let's look at this one here again, looking at their what they've got on the wall. If I look at this one, I see that they've got two cav heroes, two range heroes, and one inf. And that kind of feels to me like, well, maybe they want to defend in a range wedge because range wedge has range in front and the cav on the sides, and the inf is in the back, so it's not as important. So kind of this leads me to believe that maybe they want to be in a range wedge. And if I look at their comp, it kind of also supports that. So it looks like they're favoring their range and they're favoring their cav. But sometimes you should look at a report like this, and this has 6 million troops in it, so it's not tiny. It's still a fair amount of troops. But if you look at this their comp, it's pretty terrible. Basically, it's got a ton of T1s. You want to ignore those. You're just going to cut right through them like butter. It's got hardly any tier 2 cushion at all, and their T4 is pretty much equal. So you can pretty much ignore everything in this report except for the tier threes, which kind of show a favor towards two troop types. So again, the strength pair of inf and cav. So I would hit this with cav because I know if I hit the cav, uh, then I'm going to get a tie, and if I hit the inf, I'm going to get a win. So that's what I'm going after this account with. Now, what if you come across one that already has troops in the infirmary? So they're already wounded, sitting there. You might think, oh well, maybe I should send a cav blast at this. It's got inf in the hospital. Well, you don't know how long ago these were sitting in the hospital, how long they've been there, who put them there. I really wouldn't recommend that. I would look at the comp, and if you really want to know, then I would break the wall and actually get the front line yourself and see what it really has up front, and not just trust what's in the infirmary. And then you run across these sort of things like trap comps. Like you look at this one. This has got this is an infantry reinforcement trap, and it's a fair amount of soldiers. 15 million in here. Pretty good comp, very well groomed, but hey, it's missing a bunch of gladiators. Why is it missing a bunch of T2s, T2 inf? It's because it wants to get those as reinforcements, and it wants to be an inf rain trap. So in this case, the standard thing to do if you wanted to go at this one is you'd hit this with range, and you'd hit it in an inf wedge. So you would be aiming to try to get at their cav and their ranged as fast as you can in your attack, knowing that you're going to cut through the small amount of reinforcements that they're going to get from their guild mates if they're reinforcing it. And so if you do that, then you can do the maximum damage to the range and to the cav. So if you look at something like this, where it's just everything is pretty much the same but weak, right? This is 8 million, but it doesn't have a strong enough mattress to worry you. The tier fours don't look strong enough to worry you. And so you look at it and you say, well, everything's about the same. Well, what would you do? Well, I would recommend just hitting it with your strongest troop type. Whatever you hit harder with, that's probably a pretty good bet against something like this. And knowing that nothing it's got, if you're a reasonably strong rally leader, nothing it's got is going to hurt you so much that you're not going to walk back from that attack. And so you just go at it with whatever your strongest troop type is. If you're wrong, your next rally is going to correct for it. So I would just go at it with whatever is the strongest. But there is one thing you should consider. That's the next thing I want to talk to you about. Cav attacks have a peculiar situation with cav attacks where you can win more often. So if you were in Vegas and you were playing the odds, you'd go with cav, and the reason is that if your target is in an infantry phalanx, what's that when you hit it with cav? Well, that's a win, right? If you're going up against a target that's in the inf wedge, you might think, oh well, maybe I should hit that with inf because that's got range on the side. Well, yeah, sometimes that's the case if they've got enough range on in their front. But you remember you're sending buffers as well, and you're going to get a you're going to get your first hits are going to be against your cav against their imp, and hopefully that does enough damage that the next time you retarget, by the time you retarget, their cav is run way out ahead. The cav is so fast that it's run way out ahead, and your next retarget is going to be against cav. So you're going to go cav on cav. So against what you might think is intuitive, when you go up against an imp wedge, cav is a really good cav against an imp wedge. It basically works out to be a win most of the time. Now that's situational. Sometimes that's not the case, but in a lot of cases that you're going to get a win out of an imp wedge when you go cav against it. So there's only two times where you really got a problem. One is when you go at it and it's in ranged phalanx or in ranged wedge, where you're going to lose those battles. But then against cav foul, you're going to get a tie. And when you go against cav wedge, you know, cav against cav wedge, that's a big win. So you get 66% of the time, you're either going to get a tie or a win in most cases when you use cav, and that's a good bet. So you should think about that when you're going at some of these smaller targets. So one of the things that I ask myself when I'm going after a smaller target like this, and I know that the odds are in my favor with cav, is I ask myself, is there enough range in this particular target to give me any worry? Like, are they gonna, if they turned on a ranged foul against me, is it really gonna hurt me so much that it's gonna cause me a problem, or is it just gonna make the attack a little bit more costly for me? So that's one of the questions I often ask myself. So I hope you like my video, and like or subscribe if you do. Otherwise, I'm gonna come find you and melt you. Remember that. Cannibal out.